to tell you, man. I really like this show. I like it a lot. I know it's super slow. I know it still has no hook. They tried to this week, but they went too deep into the comics without, I think, realizing that nobody reads the comics. But anyway, I'm just really digging the vibe, man. Like, it's just a cool show. It's like a face full of spice, quite frankly. All right, so this week's episode was written again by Johnny Favs and directed by Steph Green. I appreciate Disney Plus working so hard to highlight female directors, and they're finding some very good ones. Steph Green hasn't done a lot of directing, but she's done like 1 or 2 episodes for some very prominent shows, including The Americans and Watchmen. Boba Fett continues to heavily lean into the Western genre. So again, if you really like Westerns like myself, it's cool. It also has like a Saturday morning cartoon, a little bit of like an anime vibe, you know, it's very genre friendly, very genre friendly. I mean, I think so. And it feels to me the most like OG Star Wars. I think it has more, it's the most Star Wars has felt to me since the original 3 movies. I just really like its vibe. All right, so on that note, let's first go over the 2 coolest and most important Star Wars Easter eggs for this episode before we really dive in. Like, listen into your nose. Ew. All right, so anyway, that's not only well, I don't think he's an evil Wookiee. He's a badass Wookiee. Wow, that's a really cool Wookiee. And as one of you recognized him during the live watch along immediately, and you were like, is that Krrsantan? And it's actually Black Krrsantan from the comics, aka Santy, BK, or Black K. He has some nicknames because I think it's hard to say his name. I'm preferential to Santy, so I'm going to call him Santy. And again, as I said, he's from the Marvel Star Wars comics, and he does leap right off the page into live action. He's incredibly well realized. Where's that for a character greeting at Disney World and Disneyland? Or Galaxy's Edge, I guess, to be specific. Chewie's like, whoa, this is my turf for photos. Anyway, I don't read the Star Wars comics, not for lack of trying, by the way. I've stopped and started so many times, not a fan. And I don't think many people do, again, because that's why Santy's not trending. I mean, it's a subcategory under Tusken Raiders. That was the best people could do. I mean, that's why you need like a hook, not only to get people to watch next week, but what's the hook? What's everyone going to be talking about? What's everyone going to be chatting about on social media? I know some of you are like, it doesn't need that, Grace. Well, that's the game. You know, don't hate the player, hate the game. And Disney Plus shows are supposed to trend on social media. So you have to give something that's obvious for everybody to rally behind as a hashtag or something to tweet about. And everyone could just do Tusken Raiders. But I mean, Tusken Raiders, hey, it's their time to shine. All right, so anyway, I looked Santy up, and here's his resume. His first appearance was in Darth Vader #1, which I think I might actually own, and I don't know if I don't think I even read it. And where he showed up, by the way, with Boba Fett, as they were both working for Jabba at the time. So I don't know why Boba looks like he acted like he'd never seen him before when he showed up here. So I think he at least gives Sandy a little nod, like, hey man, what the hell? All right, so anyway, Sandy trained as a gladiator, and now he's turned into a bounty hunter. He had a run-in with Obi-Wan as well, so maybe he'll show up on that show too. And he's also worked with Dr. Aphra, who I know about because I've seen this character in comic book headlines, following comic book news. I don't cover comic books like I used to, but I still keep an eye on the headlines. And Dr. Aphra also originated in the Darth Vader comics. She's an archaeologist working for the Empire. I think she's a little like Catwoman. She, can work with the good guys and the bad guys. So she herself has become extremely popular and has her own comic book series now. And I also think she's important because she's probably the most prominent LGBT character in Star Wars to date. So very cool character. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her in live action at some point too. I mean, if Santy's here, Aphra's probably not far behind. All right, so back to Santy. Wow. Can't wait to see him in action. I hope to see him in action this episode, but it was not to be. And it's just great to see another cool Wookiee. I dare say maybe even a little cooler than Chewie, although of course Chewie is OG. But after so many lame Wookiees, like, in Solo when they were running around naked, I was like, they were having a rough time there. But still, I don't know. This is a great Wookiee. All right, then also there's the pikes. So again, some of you were like, are those pikes? And I was like, what the hell are pikes? So a lot of people know what pikes are off of the Clone Wars animated series. So Santi's from the comics, Pikes is, but they're going deep into the Star Wars, Rolodex here. So, and that's what a lot of fans wanted. So anyway, the Pikes they've been in a number of things, including the comics, but they're particularly, I think, prominent in the animated series, The Clone Wars. So yes, the Pike Syndicate, you heard right, is the top supplier of spice. I know Star Wars is based on Dune, but let's try and change some of the names at least, or terms. And spice is mined by slaves on the planet Kessel. And Kessel, of course, is infamously accessible only by the Kessel Run, which the Millennium Falcon famously did in less than 12 parsecs. Keep an eye out for Han Solo references. That's all I'll say. All right, so Boba seemed to take issue with how spice is mined, and Ezra Bridger is quoted as saying that slaves are lucky to last a year there, if that. So maybe because of what happened with the clones, although, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see who shows up on this show. I'm excited, although there's only 5 episodes left. What are they saving the cameos for? All right, now let's really dive into Chapter 2. Now, last week, as you might recall, I was concerned that following 2 storylines, past and present, would divide up this show's running time too much, especially since episodes aren't that long. This one was a little bit longer, thank goodness, but still only around 40 minutes. And this week I was right. They did not have enough time for both storylines. Boba's past got the majority of our time, and it had a very cool train sequence. I liked the flashback stuff quite a bit. But there was so much interesting stuff in the opening with the present storyline that it was a bummer to abandon it. All right, so we start off with this assassin who does look like he's right out of Mortal Kombat, right? And he's a member of the Order of the Night Wind. And I thought Fennec Shand was so funny when she was like, "You're paying for the name." And I believe it after seeing the action scene last week. All right, so anyway, but he still won't talk because he has a reputation to live up to. But Fennec says perhaps he fears the Rancor because it says he fears no man, and I was like, is she going to say maybe he would fear a woman? But no, she goes for the Rancor. Now some of you were like, hey, excuse me, Luke killed it. They maybe found another Rancor. Maybe they went to the Rancor store and said, send me a new one. All right, so anyway, they don't have a Rancor because I guess the visual effects budget, there are a couple of budgetary cutbacks here. I mean, I guess it still is a streaming show to a degree. But yeah, they're like, we can't afford a Rancor. But they still did a really nice job doing the whole setup from Return of the Jedi when Luke got, shunted down there. I liked the return of the viewing window. I thought that was very cool. It was great. And you guys were right. Goranson does the theme, which I love. The theme over the end credits, that's good stuff, boy. But Joseph Shirley does the score during the episode itself, and that's excellent. And there was some really cool music here in particular. And I like that the guy is so afraid of the Rancor, the assassin, that he totally drops his facade, and he just sounds like a regular guy when he shrieks, "It was the mayor! It was the mayor who hired me!" So they go to see the mayor, and it's a little bit of a Boba versus bureaucracy bit, which I thought was very funny. He did not call ahead to make an appointment. I don't know how you can have a daimo and a mayor. That makes no sense to me. Isn't the daimo the mayor of that area? It's supposed to be like a feudal lord, and then there's a leader of the whole larger territory. I would think that they would be in direct competition for who's in charge between the two of them. I guess the mayor says he works for the daimo, but obviously that's not the case because they have major bureaucracy clashes there. All right, so anyway, the mayor has the assassin killed on the spot under the guise of it being illegal for them to be there. Of course, he just doesn't want him to talk anymore. He already talked back at Jabba's or Boba's new place. But he does give Boba some advice, and he says running a family is more complicated than bounty hunting. And I'm like, maybe if we spent more time in the present, we would see that. But I have to say, I think the whole point of the past stuff is that Boba kind of does run a family eventually with the Tusken Raiders. So, but Boba keeps it close to the vest. He doesn't need to share his life story with the mayor, but we get to see his dreams. Maybe that's why he had that dream. All right, I don't know. We'll see. All right, so anyway. Back to so then he gets sent back to the sanctuary. If I were Boba, I would be like, I don't appreciate this wild goose chase. Just tell me what's going on. But he's like, the mayor's like, no, go to the sanctuary, which is the name for that club. Max Rebo, nice to see he has a steady gig. Is he still there? Although I'm surprised, speaking of the budget, that they can't afford wardrobe changes for Jennifer Beals. It's Jennifer freaking Beals. She needs to have a glamorous new dress every time we see her. I would think just for the reputation of that club or that cantina. But anyway, no helmet clean this time. And in fact, she even just says, hey, do you want to take a seat at the bar while I try and get you a table? What disrespect is this? Boba Fett does not wait at the bar. I thought that was hilarious. And she's like, oh, it's the twins. The twins want Jabba's old territory. And some of you were like, Luke and Leia? But no, it was twin Hutts. And I got to say, they know how to make an entrance. They made quite a bit last week and even the beginning of this episode with like, Boba, you're too low key. And then they really, they had a great payoff for all those seeds they planted with seeing the Hutts enter the town square. That was so cool. By the way, side note, when I was trying to get screen grabs, I accidentally came across this one. And what the hell is happening here? It's like production just gave up. They're like, and just put a trash can on Bob. But I think production's probably like, are you kidding me? Do you see how many latex alien heads I made this week? The trash can on the guy is fine. All right, so anyway, the twins, back to the twins, they are fabulous. Probably CGI, I would guess. I love everything about them. I love their chin art. I love that the sister has a fan while the brother is playing with his food, although he ate it off camera because it's Disney. And I love this employee's face, by the way. Something tells me the twins don't have dental. I mean, that was just hilarious. I mean, can you imagine working for the twins? That's exactly, his face says it all. That's exactly what I think it would be like. And of course, Santi is there in their employ, so boss. And in comparison, Boba's entourage is weak sauce. I mean, he can't make an entrance and he can't have an entourage off either. Note to the Hutts don't want to have a big fight in front of everybody, especially because they're giant targets. So they say, sleep lightly, Boba Fett. And I thought maybe Santi would visit him and sneak into his, what was it, a bank tank you guys were saying? Maybe that'll happen next week because it's flashback time, baby. So who is the super Tusken Raider, right? So cool. Also wears all black. Some of you are guessing that it's a woman, a female Tusken Raider. I'd be interested to see that. What do they look like under their masks, by the way? I'm trying to get Boba Fett a date. I'm like, Jennifer Beals, this Tusken Raider? So anyway, we get a little more information about the Tusken Raiders with their leader later in the episode saying that they had problems once the oceans of Tatooine dried up. So I guess they're water reliant, which is why they have those face masks. I would like to see what one looks like. All right, so anyway, he's getting a lesson on how to use the Gadderfi, which is the weapon of the Tusken Raiders. And this is important because this is actually the story of how Boba gets his. So there's a train drive-by, heavy death toll, including their Bantas, right? They lose a lot of Bantas this episode. Now, during the night, though, when they're burning the corpses, I'm surprised Disney let them do that. But anyway, Boba Fett spots the speeder bikes in the night that he saw from, I love speeder bikes so much, that he saw from the episode last week. And it really turns out really is just a biker gang. They don't work for anyone. They're just a biker gang. And they embarrassed that dude in front of his lady at the bar. Although I don't know why that couple didn't leave. And I don't know why that guy muttered something under his breath to a biker gang. Like, what? But so, especially because he couldn't finish the fight. But Boba finished it, and then he took a drink. And by the way, huge shout out this week to Tamura Morrison's smile. He has a gorgeous smile. So, and I love that Boba took all the speeder bikes. You think he's picking one, and he's like, I'm taking them all. I'm like, yes, I want one. But at first, the Tusken Raiders go all Jawa on him. That was funny. But Boba then teaches them, and I was at first like, man, don't make me sit through this lesson. Are you actually going to let me ride a speeder bike? So then I don't need to do this. Then they had a montage. And so, I always think of Robot Chicken with Montage Man. We'll learn to ride these speeder bikes in like under 5 minutes. But I don't know why we had this montage. I didn't think it was particularly funny. I mean, I can accept from a viewer standpoint that they learned how to ride those bikes. I did not need to I'm not going to be like, whoa, how'd they learn to ride those bikes so fast? I'm like, thanks for not making me sit through that. Now, we had a very nice train sequence right out of the best Westerns. You know, cowboys going across the top of a speeding train is just one of the main iconic moments of the genre. Including Back to the Future Part 3. I love Back to the Future Part 3. That's a great one. I know some people don't like it, but it's really good. Some of you during the watch along were like, we got to reach 88 miles per hour, Marty. And I was wondering why you were thinking of that. And actually, I believe it's because when the droid conductor was speeding up now and then, there'd be a burst of speed, just like in that sequence. So I think that's one of the reasons that it felt like that. And also because it had a futuristic vibe to it, maybe, but it was fun. I loved when the Super Tusken hopped the train, worked their way through the bottom of the train, and then when Boba Fett and the other Tusken Raiders were like held at bay on top there with that shootout, all of a sudden their friend sticks their head up through the top of the train and is like, hey guys, and I thought that was awesome. So then the Droid Conductor, I thought the Droid Conductor was very funny. I've never seen a conductor bail on a train. Usually they just surrender, but this droid was like, see ya, I get dental. It was very funny. So Boba stops the train, and then we have a surprisingly funny sequence when he negotiates with the Pikes. Well, he doesn't negotiate with them. He tells them how it's going to go down. This is how things are going to go down. So he's like, are you guys trading spice? Are you guys running spice? And the head of the Pike says, what does spice look like? And I like that Boba Fett was like that. When, you know, great timing that they were taking out a bunch of it right then. And then he tells the Pikes they got to pay protection money to the Tusken Raiders and they have to walk home. And I thought it was so funny the way all the Pikes looked up and were like, what now? Like that was like worse than death. They were like, you want us to walk home? And then we also found out that those little things are called black melons, because Boba's like, we'll give you each a black melon. And I'm like, who's gonna dig up all those black melons? You see how many of these there are? So he goes, we will let you go as a gesture of our civility. And then I thought it was super embarrassing that as the Pikes walked off, the Tusken Raiders wasted all that water. I was like, you guys are making us look like idiots. They're gonna go back to their people and say they got lucky and come back here with a vengeance. Like, come on. It was just all that water wasted. They were like, had these little tiny containers. They were like, I got a tiny bit of it. It was ridiculous. All right, so anyway, then that weird lizard showed up. So the head of the Tusken Raider said, you're a good guide, and I got you a gift, because this lizard will guide you. And I knew it was going to crawl into him somehow. But it was still shocking when it did. I think that he got a bunch of spice in his face. I think that's what it was. And it was very Wrath of Khan earbug. I mean, Jon Favreau clearly is a movie fan, and he borrows from a lot of stuff. But I think he does it well, so it's okay. And this was a big lizard. I mean, I'd be like, it's like, do you stretch out my nose hole, man? Like, how does it fit into his brain? I mean, it was a mess. I'm like, I'm never gonna forgive you for this. But then he goes on a vision quest and he sees his past, and one very cool shot of him as a boy. That was my favorite one. And I guess maybe see being reborn, free of his Boba Fett obligations, right? Like that was the meaning of breaking free of the branches. I'm like, what do you mean obligations? It's awesome that you're Boba Fett. I mean, whatever. I don't think his dream was very, and then what was with the water crashing up? Because there's no water in the desert, but it was like, they were like, whoosh, and I'm like, what? All right, so anyway, the tree branch though was important. So he comes back with the tree branch, all right? He stumbles out of the desert. Thankfully they extract the lizard. Thanks for not leaving that in there, man. But does this mean it's been up someone else's nose? You clean these things, right? All right, so anyway, all right, so then the branch becomes his Gatterfi, right? So he's like, this is my Gatterfi, but he has to make it himself. It was like Tusken Raider shop class, but A+, Boba, your detail work was impressive. And he gets a new look with thumb holes, so 2 thumbs up. I love that. And I looked it up because I think, you know, many of us, I think, would assume that wearing black in the desert would be not the right thing to do, but I saw online some good points about Bedouins. The Bedouin, a real-life tribe, wears black in the desert because if you wear loose black clothing, which is light and layered, although this looked like heavy fabric to me, but whatever. Apparently, the loose layers and the black color create like an air conditioning kind of effect in the clothing, so it's actually a great thing to wear, interestingly enough. And then that final dance around the fire as he officially becomes part of the tribe, that was incredible. That was incredible. It was worth the whole episode just for that ending. I loved it. I thought it was so, so incredible. And again, maybe this is his experience of running a family. I mean, he was already kind of doing that kind of stuff when he was talking to the Pikes, right? I mean, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was great. That was just beautiful. It was gorgeous. And then the Ludwig Göransson theme comes in and you're like, oh my God, this is a great show. All right, so that's this week's episode. Share your own thoughts and observations down below. Do you read the Star Wars comics? Do you have any recommendations for ones that are good? Apologies if you think they're all good. And be sure to subscribe. And of course, as always, you can check out some more episodes right now.